I'm Richard Abel, University of Michigan, on permanent extended leave or otherwise retirement.
My name is Alexandra Vesey. I'm an assistant professor in journalism and creative media at the University of Alabama. Advanced, kind of on the other side of it. Broadly speaking, I'm a feminist popular music studies scholar. I'm really interested in female-identified musicians' labor in the music industries, especially at a moment of tremendous change in terms of the streaming economy, in terms of social media, in terms of how musicians in general are trying to make a living in these sort of new paradigms, but also specifically how women who have historically been delegitimized, erased from the historical record, minimized in terms of their work and their output and their contributions to recordings and so forth, how they're navigating those spaces and those expectations.
Hi there, my name is Lucia Nagib. I am professor of film, originally from Brazil, currently based in the UK, where I teach at the University of Reading.
Hi, my name is Seung-hoon Jeong. I am an assistant professor at California State University, Long Beach.
Hi, my name is John Powers. I am an assistant professor of film and media studies at Washington University in St. Louis. My research focuses on experimental film and video and small gauge media infrastructures, particularly technology and its role in experimental film and video.
Hello, I'm Dimitrios Latsis. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Alabama, the School of Library and Information Studies, the College of Communication, and I'm the author of How the Movies Got Passed, a historiography of American cinema.
My name is Jihoon Kim, Professor of Cinema and Media Studies at Jongwon University, South Korea. I'm happy to publish my activism and post-activism, Korean documentary cinema 1981-2022.
I started reading some works on indigenous people's history of the United States, which gave me a much better sense of what Native American indigenous people's history before early motion pictures. I also, because of that, became interested or discovered the concept of settler colonialism, and discovered that early Westerns are this kind of unique document representing settler colonialism on the North American continent. And it's really about the struggle between white settlers and indigenous peoples, and even Mexicans, for control of the North American continent. So that's what this book tries to argue, basically.
It's called Extending Play, the feminization of collaborative music merchandise in the early 21st century. It's primarily about brand partnerships, and specifically about women's work in brand partnerships in the music industries. And what really kind of inspired me to think about it, there's sort of two things simultaneously. One, when I worked in college radio in the early to mid 2000s, right before like the CD era sort of cratered, we were awash in merchandise, and even though it was like this sort of anti-corporate space, we still had posters, we had buttons, we had stickers, t-shirts, all that stuff, and at the time I didn't think very much about it as merch, as like consumer products, because at the time when I was, in my early 20s, I was very much like kind of anti-pop and very like kind of much more interested in what was happening like sort of in the subculture. But looking back on that time, like it was also sort of bound up in commodification. The other thing that really sort of got me interested in this topic actually was Britney Spears. I was really interested in her fragrance collections, which at the time when I was in college college, I had an ambivalent relationship with Brittany, but like after I finished my master's degree, and she was struggling with like sort of mental health problems, I was really struck by the way that like her image was managed at the time but her fragrance sales are great. She's great. She's doing great. She's still like owning this particular space, which I think for me made me have to kind of reconsider my relationship to Brittany as a listener, since we're roughly the same age, and how the conservatorship kind of limited what she could do. But then also that there is this thing that we have to account for, which is that like her fragrance collection was a big part of how she was like positioned in the global marketplace.
This book that I co-edited with my colleague Stephen Solomon proposes to retell the history of cinema by the way it interacts with other arts and media forms. The specificity of film is being non-specific. It shares elements with music, with literature, with arts, and with other media such as television, radio, even the internet. So by retelling the history of cinema, looking at all these other mediums that compete in the form of film, we hope to build up a non-teleological and non-hierarchical history of cinema.
I wrote this book, Biopolitical Ethics in Global Cinema, as an attempt to address world cinema in a new global frame. And in this frame, I wanted to address a variety of films in terms of globalization's impact on the concepts of subjectivity and society. And I wanted to address these issues from especially a biopolitical and ethical perspective that I wanted to develop on the basis of critical theory.
My book, which is called Technology and the Making of Experimental Film Culture, is about how post-war American experimental filmmakers used 16mm based technologies like the Bolex camera, DIY optical printers, film labs, and reversal film stocks, and then created a unique artisanal culture of making around those technologies.
The idea for this book came from being a user of archives myself and kind of starting to wonder how film history came about as a genre. How did people start writing the past, about the past of the moving image, how certain things were invented in the beginning, given that this was a recent art, a recent invention. Kind of how Hollywood studios created this past for themselves, commemorated it. And I wanted to kind of go beyond the usual kind of historical genres, writing and books about the cinema, into things like exhibitions and museums and events on anniversaries of cinema. So the various chapters of the book trace a trajectory in the silent era of cinema that up until sound show how this film history emerged as a distinct genre.
This is the first English language book on South Korean non-fiction film and video in the non-governmental and non-corporate sector since the 1980s. So it's actually the first, comprehensive account of the historical development and aesthetic and political divergence of, South Korean documentary cinema, includes dialogue with the dynamic transition and transformation of Korean society during the last 40 years. So I hope many readers across different fields, including cinema and media studies and Korean studies, enjoy and appreciate the book and use it for your own purposes.